What if everything you've ever believed about talent was wrong? What if the people we call geniuses, prodigies, and naturals weren't born extraordinary at all, but built their greatness step by step through a specific kind of practice that most people never use? From Mozart to elite athletes, from world-class surgeons to memory champions, the difference between average and exceptional isn't motivation, experience, or raw talent. It's a method. In this video, we break down the complete science behind expertise as revealed in Peak: Secrets from the New Science of Expertise, showing how ordinary people become extraordinary and how the same principles could be applied by anyone. The Gift. The book opens by confronting a deeply ingrained belief that exceptional performers are born with rare, innate gifts. When we encounter someone who performs at an astonishing level, we instinctively assume they were blessed with something extra at birth. Ericsson challenges this assumption head-on by examining decades of research into top performers across domains such as music, sports, chess, medicine, and business. Ericsson introduces the concept of adaptability, the brain and body's ability to change in response to training, as the true gift shared by all humans. Through the example of perfect pitch, long considered a rare genetic talent, he shows how this ability can be developed through early and structured training rather than inherited. Studies demonstrate that children trained correctly can all develop perfect pitch, dismantling the idea that it belongs only to a lucky few. The introduction reframes human potential entirely. Abilities are not fixed containers we fill until full, but expandable systems that grow with the right kind of effort. Learning, therefore, is not about reaching a predetermined ceiling, but about creating new capabilities. This insight sets the foundation for the entire book. Excellence is built, not born. Chapter 1. The Power of Purposeful Practice. The journey into expertise begins with a deceptively simple question: how much can a person truly improve with practice? Ericsson answers this not with theory, but with a real experiment involving an ordinary college student named Steve Falloon. At the start, Steve's abilities were completely unremarkable. Like most people, he could remember only about 7 or 8 digits at a time when numbers were read aloud quickly. This limit was widely believed to be hardwired into the human brain. What followed overturned decades of assumptions. Through carefully structured training sessions spread over months and eventually years, Steve pushed far beyond what psychology textbooks claimed was possible. He didn't improve because he repeated the task endlessly. He improved because each session forced him to operate right at the edge of his ability. Whenever he succeeded, the difficulty increased. Whenever he failed, he adjusted. Over time, Steve learned new ways to group numbers, encode them into meaningful patterns, and store them efficiently in memory. By the end of the experiment, he could accurately recall more than 80 digits, something that once seemed biologically impossible. This transformation illustrates the essence of purposeful practice. Purposeful practice is intentional. It has specific goals, such as remembering one more digit than last time. It requires full concentration, not casual repetition. It depends on immediate feedback, so mistakes are identified and corrected rather than repeated. Most importantly, it constantly pushes performance beyond the comfort zone. Ericsson contrasts this with what most people mistake for practice. Playing tennis casually for years, driving a car daily, or doing a job repeatedly may feel like experience. But once actions become automatic, improvement stops. Automaticity is useful for efficiency, but it is the enemy of growth. Purposeful practice keeps skills from becoming stagnant by continuously exposing weaknesses and forcing adaptation. The central message of this chapter is clear. Improvement is not driven by time spent, but by how that time is used. Without clear goals, focus, feedback, and challenge, practice merely maintains the status quo. Chapter 2. Harnessing Adaptability. To understand why purposeful practice works, Ericsson turns to the biology of learning. At the heart of human improvement lies adaptability, the brain and body's ability to physically change in response to training. This adaptability explains how skills that once felt impossible eventually feel natural. For much of history, scientists believed the brain was largely fixed after childhood. Modern neuroscience has proven this assumption wrong. With the right kind of practice, neural circuits reorganize themselves. Connections between neurons strengthen, and used pathways weaken, and in some areas, new neurons may even form. These changes are not abstract. They directly shape what a person can perceive, decide, and execute. Ericsson uses historical examples to show adaptability in action. Marathon runners today routinely outperform the best runners of a century ago. Musicians now meet technical standards that would have been extraordinary in earlier eras. These improvements did not happen because humans evolved genetically in a few generations. They happened because training methods became more sophisticated, more targeted, and more demanding. The body adapts in similar ways. Muscles, tendons, and cardiovascular systems all respond to stress by becoming stronger and more efficient. But crucially, adaptation only occurs when the system is challenged. Comfort preserves ability, stress transforms it. This is why easy repetition leads to stagnation, while structured difficulty leads to growth. The chapter reinforces a powerful idea. Limits are often not biological walls, but temporary plateaus caused by insufficient challenge. When practice is designed to stretch capability, the brain and body respond by raising what is possible. Chapter 3. Mental Representations. While adaptability explains how improvement happens, mental representations explain why experts perform so differently for novices. Mental representations are the detailed internal models that experts build through years of focused practice. They allow experts to process information faster, recognize patterns earlier, and anticipate outcomes more accurately. In chess, for example, a novice sees individual pieces. A grandmaster sees familiar patterns, threats, and strategies instantly. In music, a beginner focuses on individual notes, while an expert perceives phrasing, structure, and emotion all at once. These differences are not due to faster reflexes or higher intelligence, but to richer mental representations. Ericsson emphasizes that these representations are constructed, not inherited. They develop through repeated exposure to meaningful feedback. Each mistake refines the model. Each correction sharpens perception. Over time, experts learn not just what to do, but what to notice. Mental representations also explain why experts can self-correct more effectively. Because they have clear internal standards of excellence, they immediately recognize when something is off. This allows them to adjust in real time, accelerating improvement. The implication is profound. Getting better at anything is not just about doing more, but about seeing better. Practice that improves perception and understanding is far more powerful than practice that focuses only on execution. Chapter 4. The Gold Standard. All of these ideas converge in what Ericsson calls deliberate practice, the most effective form of training ever identified. Deliberate practice is not what most people naturally gravitate toward. It is difficult, mentally draining, and often uncomfortable. It demands sustained attention, precise goals, and constant correction. Unlike playful repetition or routine work, deliberate practice is designed specifically to improve performance. Every session has a purpose. Every task targets a weakness. Feedback is immediate and brutally honest. Progress is measured not by enjoyment, but by improvement. Ericsson makes it clear that deliberate practice is not inherently motivating. In fact, it often feels unpleasant. This is why few people engage in it consistently and why expertise is rare. However, every field studied, from sports to music to medicine, reveals the same pattern. Elite performers rely on deliberate practice far more than anyone else. Another crucial distinction is that deliberate practice usually requires guidance. Coaches, teachers, or well-designed training systems help identify weaknesses and design exercises that push just beyond current ability. Left alone, Most people reinforce what they already do well instead of confronting what they do poorly. This chapter establishes deliberate practice as the foundation of excellence. Talent may influence where someone starts, but deliberate practice determines how far they go. Is the gold standard not because it is easy, but because it works? Chapter 5. Principles of Deliberate Practice on the Job. Having established deliberate practice as the engine of expertise, Ericsson now turns to a critical question. If deliberate practice is so powerful, why do most professionals fail to improve significantly over time? The answer lies in how modern work is structured. Most jobs reward efficiency, speed, and consistency, not learning. As a result, once professionals reach an acceptable level of performance, their work becomes routine and automatic. Ericsson uses striking examples from medicine, teaching, and other professions to show that years of experience alone do not guarantee improvement. In fact, research repeatedly shows that doctors, teachers, and other skilled professionals often plateau early in their careers and may even decline in performance over time. This is not because they lack intelligence or dedication, but because their daily work rarely pushes them beyond what they already know how to do. Deliberate practice on the job requires redesigning how professionals learn. Instead of simply performing tasks, workers must engage in activities specifically designed to improve performance. This includes breaking complex skills into components, practicing difficult cases rather than routine ones, and receiving immediate, objective feedback. Simulation emerges as a powerful tool in this context. Surgeons, pilots, and emergency responders who train in simulated environments can repeatedly practice high-risk situations without real-world consequences. These simulations allow focused repetition, error analysis, and correction, core elements of deliberate practice that normal work environments often lack. Ericsson's core message is that expertise at work does not emerge automatically from experience. Organizations that want excellence must build systems that make deliberate practice part of the job, not an optional extra. Chapter 6. Principles of Deliberate Practice in Everyday Life. Deliberate practice is not reserved for elite performers or high-stakes professions. In this chapter, Ericsson demonstrates how the same principles apply to everyday skills such as writing, studying, communication, and problem-solving. The first step is abandoning vague goals like get better and replacing them with specific, measurable targets. Improvement requires identifying precise weaknesses and designing exercises that address them directly. For a writer, this might mean focusing solely on crafting stronger openings. For a student, it could involve isolating the types of problems that consistently cause mistakes. Focus is central. Multitasking, casual repetition, and distracted effort produce little growth. Deliberate practice demands full attention, even if only for short periods. Short, intense sessions often outperform long, unfocused ones. Feedback is equally essential. Without knowing what is wrong, improvement becomes guesswork. Feedback can come from teachers, peers, tools, or careful self-evaluation, but it must be honest and specific. This chapter reframes self-improvement as a skill in itself. Those who learn how to practice deliberately gain a powerful advantage. They're no longer dependent on talent or luck, but can reliably engineer progress in any area they choose. Chapter 7. The Road to Extraordinary. Expertise, Ericsson emphasizes, is the result of a long, structured journey rather than sudden breakthroughs. This chapter explores how extraordinary performers develop over time, often across a decade or more of sustained deliberate practice. One of the most important factors is early structure. The best performers are guided from the beginning by teachers or coaches who understand what excellent performance looks like and how to build toward it step by step. Each stage of development prepares the ground for the next. Motivation plays a crucial role, but not in the way most people imagine. Experts are not endlessly driven by passion alone. Instead, motivation is supported by clear goals, visible progress, and belief in the effectiveness of their training methods. Knowing that effort leads to improvement makes sustained practice possible. Ericsson also highlights the importance of recovery. Deliberate practice is mentally and physically exhausting. Top performers carefully manage their energy, alternating intense training with rest. Quantity of practice matters, but quality and sustainability matter more. The road to extraordinary performance is demanding, predictable, and repeatable. Those who understand its structure can walk it deliberately rather than stumbling forward blindly. Chapter 8. But what about natural talent? This chapter directly confronts the question that lingers throughout discussions of expertise. If deliberate practice is so powerful, what role does natural talent play? Ericsson's answer is nuanced but clear. While genetic factors can influence physical traits, such as height or body composition, they explain far less about high-level performance than people assume. In most fields, initial advantages fade quickly without proper training. Conversely, individuals who start with no apparent talent can surpass early prodigies through sustained deliberate practice. What appears to be talent is often the result of early exposure, better coaching, or more effective practice methods. Ericsson acknowledges that genetics may influence traits like focus, motivation, or resilience, which can indirectly affect how easily someone engages in deliberate practice. However, these influences do not place strict limits on achievement. More often, perceived limits reflect differences in training rather than biology. The belief in talent can be actively harmful. When people assume ability is fixed, they stop trying as soon as progress slows. The talent myth turns temporary plateaus into permanent ceilings. Chapter 9. Where do we go from here? In the final chapter, Ericsson widens the lens to consider the implications of deliberate practice for society as a whole. Education systems, workplaces, and training programs are largely built around performance evaluation rather than skill development. As a result, they fail to cultivate true expertise. Ericsson argues for a shift from judging outcomes to building abilities. Schools should focus less on grades and more on structure practice that helps students improve specific skills. Workplaces should reward learning and adaptation, not just efficiency. The science of expertise reveals that human potential is far more flexible than previously believed. When people understand how improvement actually works, they gain the power to shape their own development. The message is both practical and hopeful. Excellence is not a mystery. It is a system, and systems can be learned, taught, and applied by anyone willing to practice deliberately. Peak ultimately delivers a liberating truth. You are far more capable than you think. Mastery is not a matter of luck or genetics, but of understanding how improvement really works and committing to the right kind of practice. When you stop chasing talent and start building skill deliberately, progress becomes predictable. The question is no longer whether you have what it takes, but whether you are willing to practice with purpose.